Most of you will already know that Insomniac's 2018 take on Spider-Man was tighter than a spandex suit that rides up in the crotch. It was one of the best superhero games ever made. Hell, it was one of the best games of the last generation. So much so, they're already remastering it after only 2 years. And speaking of short time frames, is this speedily crafted sequel a web shooter of the same high caliber? Is it worthy of being placed way up there on another Avengers tower-sized pedestal? And I ask because sometimes developers can get cocky or lazy. Sometimes the demands of being that pace-setting, centerpiece launch title for a new system comes with some technical curveballs, or simply not enough time to whip things into shape. So the question remains then, is this follow-up, for lack of a worse pun, better by miles? More or less. Being the guy who's clocked this twice, once on Spectacular difficulty and then again on Ultimate, I reckon I can give you a straight answer. But first, a quick bit of housekeeping. My vids deal in section topics that let you just quick jump around in the YouTube playbar. And I also label large chunks of gameplay in there, where I just shut up and let the game do its thing. I do this because I think many of you have the common spider sense to just make up your own mind as to whether or not this is a rent, buy, or a pass. And you know what? I've spoken for too long already. Here's some of that gameplay.
Right. Insane. I'm on it. You're a dead man. He's never gonna trust me on a mission like this again.
Nice work with the helicopter, kid! Real heroic stuff!
Hey guys, how about we call a timeout? Talk this through? Please? No? All right then.
Say goodbye! I'm not going back inside! I'm gonna get behind you! Everyone gone! I ain't going back to lockup! He's in the air! Get him! Whoa! Look out! Eat this!
A bare-bones explanation of this game is, it's a Miles-only tale that's set in the exact same Big Apple sandbox you know, except now you're webbing in a winter wonderland. Fair warning, from this point onward, there's just going to have to be plot spoilers for the 2018 title. It's unavoidable. So skip ahead if you're a Spider Virgin who's saving themselves for a marriage to the remaster. This direct sequel picks up a year after the Devil's Breath crisis that saw veteran Peter Parker taking on a decent collection of supervillains and Miles Morales going through his own origin story moment. Our fledgling Spider-Man and his mum have since moved from Brooklyn to Harlem, and Miles now needs to find his footing in a new community. His other concerns include keeping his spandex fetish a secret from his mum and a visiting old friend, and just generally trying to earn some better clout in the city other than the dubious title that is That Other Knockoff Spidey. As if that to-do list wasn't tough enough, he also has to deal with looking up to a mentor who's hit the plastic surgery overnight and is now, well, almost unrecognisable. Insomniac really went overboard with their next-genning of the old Peter Parker model. It's the rough gaming equivalent of MCU's just switching out the actors for Rhodey in Iron Man 2. But anyway, the new nip-and-tucked Peter feels that Miles has reached a point where they essentially have the same skill level, and in traversal terms they pretty much do. When his young intern grows even further by manifesting bioelectricity powers, Pete just decides it's safe to go on a romantic vacay with MJ. He's either Spider sensed that that would just be a good plan, or his decision was based on a tingling sensation in his arachnads. Either way, it becomes your job to help Miles find his sticky feet as the Big Apple's only Spidey. Without saying too much, I thought this was a more than decent yarn. It does not, however, eclipse the first adventure, as it's simply not given enough time to shine. This is a more pint-sized game in almost every metric. For example, my first story-focused run was about 7 hours on Spectacular. I was closer to like 10 or 12 for the vanilla version of the previous game. And it has to be said that while you're trying to quell another city-sized threat, the runtime here just doesn't allow for as many supervillains to be folded into the chaos. So yeah, if you're in it for the story, I'd call this a well-crafted ride. It has its own stylish and engaging way of telling its tale, and it feels like its own article. It's just a shame that it's over before it begins. There would want to be some free, runtime expanding DLCs waiting out there in the wings. Fingers crossed. In terms of gameplay systems, Spider-Man Miles Morales is a smaller block party in that area as well. Though the unlockable suits on offer here are some of the coolest in-game skins in recent memory, we're trimming down from 2018's 41-piece wardrobe to only 19. But in all fairness and perspective, the original game was bolstered with 3 DLC packs. It's also worth noting that personal enhancement and perks are done slightly differently here. In the old game, you could equip 1 of 24 suit powers and 3 of 23 suit mods. Miles Morales only lets you equip 2 of 14 suit powers, which have been relabeled as mods now, and you can only equip 2 of 13 visor mods. Once again, your skill tree is going to be divided into 3 main paths, but unlike the first game, which divided 34 possible perks into Innovator, Defender, and Webslinger, Miles' 33 possible perks are pigeonholed into Combat, Venom skills, and Camo skills. It's also worth noting that 9 of those perks are unlocked simply by just completing the same number of combat, stealth, and traversal challenges just dotted around New York City. And I mean, you don't have to master them, you just have to finish them. Moving along, in terms of sniffing out objects, the old collections menu on PS4 had us chasing like 6 different resource tokens, which were resource, landmark, base, crime, challenge, and backpacks. Miles just isn't into kleptomania as hard as Pete. You can go snooping for barely half the number of things, those being podcasts, time capsules, and sound samples. Miles also isn't the biggest innovator of web gadgets either. You're going to be downsizing from 8 of Pete's best thingamabobs to 4. In this case, I'm talking web shooters, holo drones, remote mines, and gravity wells. Holo drones effectively allow you to summon these kinda crappy AI allies who are great at running interference, and little else. Meanwhile, remote mines are great for stealth killing multiple fools, especially if you just use a gravity well to sort of yank a crowd across into their blast radius. There's definitely fun to be had here, but Miles' unique approach to kicking ass is best seen in his expanded stealth and bioelectricity combat skills, the latter being shockingly satisfying.
Their tech is unbelievable, but Venom totally wrecks it. Yeah, Genki's right. Venom's a good name.
We'll hold him here. Everyone else, get upstairs. We're gonna need backup. He's a trumper.
Haven't seen you guys before. Nice glow sticks.
He's down here.
Here. Yes.
Hope these new weapons work.
What are these weapons? Memory metal?
We don't leave the we came for. Taking a shot. Out of here, Spider-Man! This ain't stay away from his touch attack! Or whatever it is! Seriously!
What are you waiting for? Find him!
Now when it comes time to put foot to face, I have to register again how much I love the combat in this franchise. Insomniac cleverly iterated upon the rhythmic fisticuffs seen in the Batman Arkham series by placing a greater emphasis on air juggling above your foes. Plus they just cranked up the pace of everything to hyperactive child on pixie sticks. It was a joy to come back and use the old tactics, stuff like prioritizing and isolating certain enemy types, weaponizing incidental objects, and expertly controlling crowds by systematically ripping enemies upwards for an air juggle pantsing. Better yet, if you can dodge better than an over-caffeinated Dark Souls player, or deliver more hits than Elvis Presley, you're gonna earn Venom energy. Fill up a bar of it and you can do a high damage Venom punch, a teleport like Venom Dash, and then there are these two different ways to either Venom launch people upwards or Venom smash downwards. Double ups aside, there is just no denying how showy and satisfying these moves are. Earning and using them also becomes more or less integral in boss fights. And hey, you also have to give props to Miles for being a superior urban ninja. Thanks to a limited invisibility skill, you now have a much greater chance to disengage and then re-establish stealth. On Ultimate, I found that the first of these sections started out taxing, but by the midpoint of the proceedings, they had become a pushover when Miles earns his ability to do the world's best Predator cosplay. The HUD elements telegraph too easily when it's safe to execute people, and the AI is way too accepting of their dwindling numbers and their obviously downed friends. They don't communicate well enough. But be that as it may, and just like the way the combat will egg you on into chasing triple-digit combos, there's an addictiveness to gift-wrapping a small village worth of idiots without anybody knowing you were there. Stealth could be more polished, but I'm still a Spider fan of it.
The main purpose of stealth? Saving lives. Free all the hostages without being spotted to win this challenge. Time is a factor, so move quick. Zip to the prompt to get stealthing.
Hostages, eh? Sounds tense.
Remember, you can take down guys while crawling on walls, too.
Oh, man. The hostages are all Pete. That's funny. And weird. Very Pete.
Control. Initiated. We have a takedown. Oh, thank you, Spider-Man!
You're welcome. Oh, right. Fake people.
Control, weapon initiated.
Gotta watch out for spiders, man.
You'll never get away with this, evil holograms! I knew you'd save me, Spider-Man!
Amazing. Love.
Await engagement.
Here, take 5.
Alert. Possible intruder. I know my hero will save me!
Should check on the hostages.
You just turned me from Spider-Man into a Spider-Fan!
When it comes to visuals, I don't feel I have to say too much here, as this title clearly just speaks for itself. There's a default fidelity graphics mode that provides an extra high quality picture from a 4K resolution base that's pretty gobsmacking. It only delivers a admittedly rock solid 30 frames per second, but my god, it looks pretty thanks to ray tracing reflections, enhanced lighting and additional VFX. Personally though, I played using the basically flawless 60 frames per second performance mode that uses temporal techniques to provide a 4K picture from a lower resolution base. I mean, I loved the web-swinging traversal in the first game, but the buttery smoothness here elevates it to something truly sublime. To experience swinging in New York City more orgasmic than this, you'd need a plane ticket and a 10 out of 10 Tinder profile. Some of that feeling has to do with the new DualSense controller. The second you take to the air and web swing, the adaptive triggers do this slight solidifying force feedback thing to simulate line tension. And I love when you get the odd haptics expression in the cutscenes. Things like a clinking glass during a toast, or these super cool pitter-patters on the controller as Miles is tapping on a keyboard and trying to hack something. I have to be honest with you though, after playing Astrobot and seeing the amazing things that the DualSense is capable of with said haptics, I was expecting more powerful and creative feedback than what's delivered here by Insomniac. Mind you, when I tried going back to the old game, the old vibrations from the DualShock just felt dull and uninspired in comparison. I think this game may have subconsciously ruined me for the DualShock 4. And last but not least, it's pretty mind-blowing to have a fast travel system that allows you to travel fast. If you're running the old game on PS5 through backwards compat, fast travel comes with like a 10 second to 13 second load time depending on where you're going. This PS5 sequel just doesn't believe in load screens whatsoever. You can fast travel anywhere instantly. Clearly, the future is now, my friends.
You can be invisible whenever. Okay.
Hey!
Like most every game out there, Spider-Man Miles Morales has some rough edges, and it isn't perfect. But I do have to say that I was expecting something a bit more polished than what I got. Across the 2 playthroughs, I saw maybe 4 different instances of when the enemy AI just sort of stopped functioning all of a sudden. Having to punch start everybody back into doing their damn jobs again is a bad look, and an even worse one is needing to do that during a phase in the last boss fight. It happened in one of the playthroughs, it didn't happen again. So I don't know what's going on there. As for smaller stuff, I saw way too many instances of KO'd enemies pitching a fit on the floor or getting impaled onto objects for my share button amusement. In my experience, immersion tarnishes like these can typically be patched into oblivion and will probably be gone before you even play this. The most important thing here is I suffered no major system lockups or anything game breaking whatsoever. Looking beyond those isolated peccadillos, Spider-Man Miles Morales is still a damn good launch showing of what a PS5 can do. What's the only thing holding it back from the "be greater, be yourself" motto that is its marketing line? Length. It simply isn't given enough main chapter runtime or side mission content to evolve into something greater than its predecessor. And that's going to feel like an especially bitter pill to swallow when you factor in the higher asking price. Monetary concerns aside, for a launch title, the worth of this game is undeniable. It offers an expensive TV justifying visual feast, not to mention a tantalizing what dreams may come glimpse at the sugar-encrusted future of eye candy on this system. We haven't even tapped what the PS5 is capable of yet, and I can already feel my eyes getting the diabetes. Likewise, it delivers absurd Mega Drive cartridge load times and an immersive, tactile DualSense experience that you simply can't feel anywhere else. Bottom line is this: if you are lucky enough to secure a PlayStation 5 and you want to thwip your mates into an even deeper jealous frenzy, this is currently the best game to do it.
Didn't even see me.
Afraid to come out, Spider?